All right, everybody. Good late morning. What is up? Happy Tuesday. And yeah, we got to talk about this one for a little bit this week because right now, Jalen Milroe, despite not really being a player that has any realistic chance of impacting the Seahawks in 2026, he is one of the hot topics for fans at the moment because well, I think you guys know why. I don't think I need to break down exactly why Jalen Milroe is an interesting player for the Seahawks right now. But yeah, we're going to talk about this one for a little bit, and we're going to take stock of where we stand right now with him as a player, as a prospect, as a whatever, and try to find the reality of the situation. So let's get into it a little bit here. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. So Jalen Milroe had maybe, although not everybody would agree with that, maybe the worst game of his career as a Seahawk. Not that that really means a lot because he's only ever really played in preseason games and it's only been a few. So, I mean, don't read into that too seriously, but Jalen Milroe got ample opportunity to show something against the Tennessee Titans a couple of days ago, and he was awful. He was really, really bad. Couple of turnovers, only took off to scramble once or twice the whole game. Made some really bad decisions. Seems like he's not really seeing things the way he needs to. Inaccurate. I think he threw maybe 2 accurate passes the entire game, holding onto the ball for an eternity. And it's a lot of the same stuff we saw from him last week against the Cowboys, but at least against the Cowboys, he had some good plays. This week, he only had a couple. There was actually, I thought, some positive to take away from that Cowboys game beyond just the, backhanded compliment stuff. Tennessee game, he had the 16-yard scramble. Other than that, there wasn't much. And this has been kind of the story with Jalen Milroe. He does occasionally bust a good play. He reminds you that he's a good athlete, but then he does something else that reminds you that he probably isn't a quarterback. And I said in my video after the Titans game that we're not seeing any improvement from Jalen Milroe this preseason from last preseason. And I might be wrong about that because if you take a look at Pro Football Focus, as poorly as they think of Jalen Milroe so far this preseason, they actually thought he was much worse last preseason. 41 grade last year. This year, at least a 51.4. So maybe that's not true. Maybe he is getting better. Maybe he went from being the worst player in football to just a really bad one, which is improvement. But yeah, let's talk about this one a little bit. So first of all, we've got one more preseason game. We're playing the Chiefs. Milroe might get to play most, or for all we know, even all of that game. We don't know yet. But Drew Lock played really well against the Titans and played okay-ish against the Cowboys. So we may have seen everything we need to see from him. We know Drew Lock is good. We know we can count on him to be a good backup. And maybe we just go, we don't need to see anything more from him the same way we did with Tyrese Knight against the Titans. And maybe we just go, look, we need the whole game from Jalen Milroe. We need to get something positive from this guy before the preseason is over. So we do have that one more game, and we may as well acknowledge that we can't have a full evaluation of what Milroe is and what he can do until we get through that game. However, as of this moment, where we sit right now, things look pretty bad. All right, guys, let's take a quick break here to talk a little bit about Prize Picks, currently the #1 sports pick app in America. The app is very easy to use. Check it out to my left here. You can do player picks, where you just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Or you can pick teams, where you pick winners, spread, or total on any game or fight. The app is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Right now, they have a great offer. You can play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you have to do is use code HMA when you sign up. It's a brand new offer. Best time possible to get on the app. So get on over there and get to winning that first lineup. So remember, Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app today, and remember to always gamble responsibly. So, first of all, let me also acknowledge before I get into anything further that I'm kind of the wrong person to ask here because, as far as I'm concerned, Jalen Milroe sucked in college. He sucked when we drafted him. He sucked last year and he sucks now. Like, I am not a Jalen Milroe fan at all. I never have been, and it doesn't look like I ever will be. So I may not be the right person to really get into this because my perspective is, well, he was never going to be good. So when I see him play bad, like he's played bad so far this preseason, I go, yeah, that's the Jalen Milroe that I thought we were going to get when we drafted him. So there are going to be people out there who took a more optimistic bend on him, or at the very least were maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say open-minded, but more willing to look through the negative. So I understand that on some level, I'm not totally the person to have this conversation. Like, if it were up to me, he wouldn't even make the team this year. And for the record, I do think he will make the team, so we're not talking about that. But, I mean, first of all, I do want to stress Milroe's not playing well, just like he didn't play well last preseason, just like he hasn't played all that well in the tiny bit of regular season action we've given him. Not that it means anything because it's 3 snaps. And there's no reason to believe he's ready to even be a backup. There's no reason to believe he's even ready to be a gadget player who gets on the field for like trick plays and creative stuff and just trying to mix it up. Like there's no reason for any of that. And that is independent of anything else. But I got to look at this through a different perspective. And I want to say this. I think that Jalen Milroe might be a player that is capable of being useful and maybe even good and maybe even, I don't want to say a franchise quarterback, but a starting quarterback in the NFL in the right offense. And maybe this goes without saying, but you look at Jalen Milroe in college, you look at the offense that he played there, you look at the fact that he dropped off significantly as a passer going from 2023 with Nick Saban to 2024 with yeah, that would have been Kalen DeBoer's first year. There's probably a particular kind of offense that you need to be playing with Jalen Milroe at quarterback, and that's not our offense. Like, we are a Kyle Shanahan-driven offense designed by Clint Kubiak, now Brian Fleury. It is a more traditional offense. It is a drop back, under center, play action offense with a lot of running. And when I say running, I mean a lot of traditional running, like handing the ball off to a running back running, a lot of outside zone. And then you hit the 7-step drop off of play action from under center. And then you throw it around the yard. That may not be Jalen Milroe's game. Milroe's a guy who you want to put on the move. He's a guy you want to bootleg. He's a guy you want to get outside the pocket, stress the defense with his speed and athleticism. And you're watching these preseason games, and I think most people can see this. I'm not seeing Jalen Milroe doing a lot of that. He's doing some of that, like the interception he threw against the Titans this last week. The second one, that was on a play where he was rolling out. But there's also a lot of straight dropbacks. There's also a lot of just hit your back foot and try to throw. And that may just not be his game. So I feel like the conception of this draft pick was just bad from the start. We knew who our coordinator was when we drafted the dude. So on some level, I don't think it's totally Jalen Milroe's fault. I think a different team, a different offense would probably get better results out of him. But it also is what it is. I don't think this team wants to pivot off of this offense. Like, what would that look like? So maybe next year you move off of Sam Darnold because he wants too much money. You trade Sam Darnold, Drew Lock's a free agent. You make Jalen Milroe the starter, even though you have no reason to believe, by the way, that he's ready for it. And then you rebuild the offense completely around Milroe's skill set as a dual threat quarterback who rolls out and bootlegs a lot. And you just hope that the other players you have who have excelled in this kind of offense for the last couple of years can make the adjustment. And that's if you move off of Sam Darnold, by the way. What if you re-sign Sam Darnold and he's your long-term quarterback? Milroe's contract expires after 2027, and at that point, you're probably just either trading him for some tiny pittance, or you're just letting him sit on the bench for another year, and then you're going to let him go in the offseason, and maybe he finds that team that he can have success on, but more than likely, he just kind of slowly fades out of the public eye and gets another job at some point one of these off seasons. I don't know. So I don't think there's really anything you can do about that. I don't think an NFL team should have to redo their offense for a backup quarterback. I don't think you should expect an offense to say, we're going to have this offense for this guy, but when this guy goes in, we're going to switch everything up. I think you should want a backup quarterback that can do some of the same things that your starter does, at least fundamentally, and then you can keep the same offense, which is what we have with Drew Lock. So I don't think there's much you can do here. I think that ultimately, and this is why I said earlier, more than anything else, this is one reason why, even though the team can afford to be patient here, I want to stress that. The Seahawks can afford to be patient because we have Sam Darnold, we have Drew Lock. You can just say, you know what, we're not going to take anything that Jalen Milroe is doing seriously right now. We're just going to let things play out. If he sucks, he sucks. We're not going to read anything into it, and we're going to let him come back for 2027, 2028 if need be, and maybe he'll eventually be good. Maybe this is just going to take a while, like it did with Sam Darnold to an extent. Like, you could take that path. But my thing is, if you do that, and then he doesn't ever get to a good point, that is a lot of time you've wasted that you could be spending on a different player that is actually fitting what your offense does right now and can actually, at the very least, be a capable backup. Because right now, Milroe is not even that. He's not even really close to that. So let's think about it like this. Every snap you give to a guy like Jalen Milroe right now, trying to develop him, is a snap that could be going to somebody that you get in the upcoming draft, which is very QB rich. Like, look at all these quarterbacks expected to be in next year's draft that are projected to be first round picks. Right now on on Mock Draft Database, you've got 7. Some of them won't declare, but a lot of them will. And then you've got Mavaya, you've got Chambliss, you've got Drake Lindsay. Then you get down to the day 3 guys. There are interesting day 3 guys in this draft right now. So, to me, when you take a look at Milroe, you can't just look at Jalen Milroe. You have to look at the opportunity cost of continuing to work with him when you're in year 2 now and you've seen really nothing good. And when I say nothing good, I don't mean literally. I understand there have been good plays, there have been good scrambles, there have been good snaps, but when I say there's been nothing good, what I mean is there's no reason to believe he's even ready to be a backup quarterback yet. And it's not like this is Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson only started 1 year in college. Milroe at least started 2. There should be a little bit more of a foundation here than we saw with Ty Simpson, in theory. And if there isn't, that might be an indictment on Milroe. And just overall, I look at this list. I see a lot of quarterbacks here, including the day 3 guys, that I would rather have on my bench than Jalen Milroe. Maybe in a different offense, sure. And if there's a plan to completely revamp this offense after this season, because we know Darnold's gone and we're just going to let Milroe start, which is kind of insanity, by the way. I want to think about that for a second here. This is a Super Bowl caliber team, a team that won the Super Bowl last year, a team that has very high expectations this year, loaded with talent, some of the better players in football. Do you really want to go into next season handing the keys to the car to Jalen Milroe when this has been the result so far? When it doesn't even look like he can be a backup right now? Because remember, after this upcoming game against the Chiefs on Friday, that might be it for Milroe. We're not going to see him again until next offseason. And I don't think we want to see him until next season because we don't want him to get on the field right now with the way he's playing. And it would also mean a bunch of players got hurt, which we also don't want. Like, do you really want that to be the scenario here? I just don't see how this timeline works out anymore. There was a time where I could see a timeline, but even then it was thin. Now I think the timeline just doesn't exist. So, not totally his fault. There is some stuff going on here that isn't just because he's bad, but I do think he's bad, and I think there's a better way to spend our time. All right, let me know what you guys think. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Everyone have a good rest of your day. More videos soon.